I have a new game for us, which I am calling Unpopular Opinions.
Ooh.
Basically, I found some potentially controversial cycling opinions and hot takes from around the internet. I'll read them, we'll debate them, and we will ultimately decide if we agree or disagree.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yep.
So it's like evolved overrated, underrated,
It is,
isn't
yeah,
it?
because I was struggling to put the list together. So overrated, underrated is going on ice for a little bit, and we're over to unpopular opinions. So I got most of these from Reddit threads and Trainer Road forum to start us off. But here is unpopular opinion number 1. Roadies are the conservative uncle of the cycling family. They're about 10 to 15 years late to every trend and only reluctantly adopt new tech. Disc brakes, wider tyres, one by, and moving away from ridiculous gearing.
100% true. Like, I mean, it's if you look at the mountain biking world, the stuff they try, everything gets changed. I mean, you can't even compare the two. It's like tractor racing versus Formula One. I mean, it's just, roadies do not like change.
Well, case in point is the tyre pressure discussion we just had before.
Everything.
Yeah.
Just, it's so hard to get anything new to happen. But yeah, gravel apparently still a fad. No, I completely agree with that statement.
I do agree with it, but I don't want to agree with it.
Listen, why should we be the test dummies? Let someone else make the mistakes, and then when they've come up with a solution, we will adopt it.
But that's the thing, is the roadies won't adopt it. They'll argue and fight.
We'll complain about it for 5 to 10 years, and then maybe adopt
They'll
it.
ring their mates at the UCI and say, can you please ban this, because this disc brake has sliced somebody's foot off, and like all this nonsense where mountain bikers crash more than roadies, and you've never seen somebody you don't see any complaints about it on there.
I have to caveat my agreeing of this with, it does feel like in roadie space that everything is led by marketing rather than led by appropriate product development. Because you don't need wide tyres on a road bike. You don't need disc brakes on a road bike. They are nice to haves, and everyone's being forced into it.
I had a discussion with somebody the other day about bottom brackets. So T47 is the new go-to standard. So it gives you everything. So it's got threaded, which loads of people didn't like press fit. So it's threaded, but it's also bigger. So these new bigger axle standards like BB30 and Dub, and that works better because you've got bigger bearings. But then I heard somebody saying, I didn't like it because it doesn't look nice next to the cranks. And then somebody reckoned, I don't know if this is true or not, this is why brands like Cannondale, instead of going to T47, they've gone back to BSA. And it's purely an aesthetic thing. So they're sacrificing performance for aesthetics. And that's roadies.
It's negligible performance though, isn't it, in the grand scheme of things?
Well, no.
There's nothing wrong with square taper. Why aren't we still using square taper?
I actually can't argue against that. Square taper was good. I don't have an issue with that. It's just not a thing anymore. Unfortunately as well, I think people aren't willing to accept that it's not all up to us. Like as a shop, if us as a shop wanted to continue selling rim brake only, no disc brakes, skinnier tires, higher pressures, at some point the industry is just going to force you to not do it.
And that's why I don't like agreeing with this point, because some of it, I think, some of that holding back comes from, no, you're just telling me I need this product. Well, I'm quite happy with what I've got.
But it is good in the long run.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
It's like when cars started having really small engines, like 1 litre engines, turbochargers, and everybody got all upset about it, but it's more efficient.
Okay, next one. Bike share programs like NYC City Bike and Lime Bike in the UK make cycling safer for everyone, because now cars are used to absolute morons doing God knows what while on a bike. So now cars drive a bit more carefully around all of us. Oh.
Is this like a Boris bike?
Yeah,
It's
ultimately.
not called a Boris bike, but I'll never stop calling it a Boris bike. I have to admit, every time I've been on one of them, I've just ridden like an idiot.
They're fun though, aren't they?
At night in London, doing everything against everything that I believe. You never have a helmet. It's just, yeah. I don't have to make things safer for the people riding them, but yeah.
Okay, so this is an unpopular opinion. I think that riding bikes in London is incredibly safe, and I much prefer and feel safer riding bikes in London than anywhere else in the United Kingdom. And the reason for that, and I'm talking about central London as well, and the reason for it is there are so many cyclists that it is impossible to drive a car in central London and not think about cyclists.
True.
Categorically impossible.
And I know people are going to comment saying like, oh, look at all the crashes and incidents in London. But I haven't looked at the numbers, but I'll take a money bet on it that if you look at the statistics, commuters on bicycle in London alone as a city, I reckon will be more than the rest of the country put
Loads,
together.
yeah. It's per
by
populace.
miles.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. So like, and then if you take all the figures and skew them by amount of people cycling, yes, I think you're right.
It's one of those things where I don't think, I don't know, people riding city bikes and that kind of thing, are they any worse than anyone else? If
No.
you want to say yes, I don't really know the answer to that. But people acting like absolute morons, you go, oh, that's a stupid cyclist, and then probably you do give them more room, but also is that then eroding the reputation? I think the actual problem is that like the term cyclist is like an all-encompassing term for like such a diverse group of people, like anyone on a bike. Do you know what I mean?
I did an experiment pre-pandemic, so 5 years ago, and I cycled when I lived in Sunderland. I cycled into Newcastle, and what I did is I alternated days where I cycled in full lycra, no backpack, on my bike, and then same road, exact same route, and then you could see cars getting impatient, close passing me, and then some days I rode on my fixie with jeans on and normal clothes, still a helmet, but just essentially normal clothes on, a backpack with all my stuff. And I just felt, I don't know, it's not scientific, but cars are giving me a lot more space, overtaking people, a lot more patient, because they didn't see me as a lycra-clad idiot, as people would say. It was a human being going to work.
Well, you say it's not scientific. There are studies that back up that exact thing.
So it's prejudice against cyclists and things like that. I think that's...
The most space I've ever had riding a bike consistently in like a commuter setting is when we used to have the cargo bike. And I think it looks so alien to people that they don't put you as a cyclist. They go, oh, there's a person riding a bike that can carry things. That's interesting.
So are we agreeing or disagreeing?
I agree.
Makes it safer for us because they're absolute morons and people drive carefully around.
Well, I am
gonna go with
I go on it. So.
Okay, next one. Fancy stuff, e.g. electronic shifting, carbon frames and wheels, high quality kit, etc. is nice and it's fun to go fast, regardless if you're racing. If it's not worth the money to you, then don't get it, but don't make snide remarks about people who do like stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So this is saying don't take the piss out of people for having nice stuff.
Yeah, you're allowed nice stuff and you're allowed to want to go fast even if you don't race.
Basically, you want to buy yourself an aero bike, but you're not going to ride fast. As long as, I just feel that as long as you don't live in the delusion of thinking you need it and you have to have it, you're buying it because you like the look of it, then yeah, crack on, do it. But don't let somebody try and convince you in the marketing saying you have to buy this aero bike over a basic bike because that's what you have to have.
Well, an aero bike, I think, is a rubbish example because if you live up here, where it is hideously hilly, you're going to go faster on a not aero bike because of the elevation up here.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, but if you just like the look of the aero bike and you want to buy it, then
Yeah, absolutely.
That is me to a T because I'm on the hunt for a new bike currently. It should probably be an all-road bike, but all of the bikes I like are super racy road bikes, and that is what I want, even though it's a terrible idea.
So
That's fine.
The caveat here is as long as getting the bike the way you like it makes you ride more and not less.
Yeah, so as in it ends up being so uncomfortable
if we
that
get
you
your
don't
bike
ride.
that's so uncomfortable you can't ride, and essentially somebody convinces you need these really small gears because it looks neater, and then you can't ride up any hills and you don't enjoy the bike as long as that's but yeah.
I think we're all agreed. Ultimately, you do you.
Yes.
And electronic gears are better.
Number 4, climbing isn't any harder than flats. It's just slower.
Agreed.
Not if you weigh as much. No, for a skinny lad like you, maybe. But for me, it's hard.
But you just go slower.
Just go slower.
Yeah, but there's the point when you stand still. Yeah, I mean,
There
when you
isn't.
go too slow, you can't balance very well.
That is not true. You need if you had mountain bike gearing on a road bike, there is not a hill in the country that you wouldn't be like, oh, I can just spin my way up. That's fine.
You could then say that as soon as you hit beyond a 1-to-1 ratio on your gears, getting off your bike, walking next to it can be less energy.
It doesn't matter. It's not what it's about.
Than riding it.
But it isn't about that. It's about riding bikes and enjoying riding bikes.
You disagree?
I disagree. Okay, can I caveat this? If you're doing a long day, so let's say 100 miles plus, flats are harder than hills.
In what way?
You get bored. You just continuously pace the same thing. You don't stand out of the saddle. Like, it's essentially body position stays exactly the same. So I feel your neck gets more sore, your back gets more sore, everything, your backside gets more sore. Where if you have a couple of climbs thrown in there, it's a bit of suffering, a bit of freewheeling, a bit of like, it's mixture. It kind of mixes it up. So that's, on longer rides, a bit more hills is actually not a bad thing.
Fair. Did we agree or disagree? I feel like you agreed, you disagreed.
The bit that's ruined it for me is the word harder. Climbing is harder, even if it's just mentally harder.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah.
Is probably where I'm going with that.
Fair. Last one. Spaces above the stem are fine. You might want to raise your bars someday or sell your bike to someone who wants them higher. Yes, obviously.
Yes, I constantly have this issue with Francis's bikes where every single bike gets in here, gets it slammed, and then it's like, that's where it lives from now on. I'm happy with spaces on top.
Spaces under the stem are also fine, provided that there's not so many that the bike actually isn't the correct size for you. Have I worded that weirdly?
The steerer flexes too much. So I think a lot of sizing people are missing the point that sometimes you need to size up or down a frame depending on your bike setup and how you want to ride. So by going up in size, generally speaking, you're going to have a longer head tube. So if you already have like 5 centimeters of spaces underneath your stem, by going up a head tube size isn't always going to be bad because you can mitigate that with your seat height. As long as your reach isn't too much. We're not going to get into that, but no, I think space is on top. With classic bikes, I used to always enjoy building it with at least 5 mil, sometimes 10 mil of spaces on top of the steerer, because then you can cut the steerer slightly longer. And that's not just for changing your position, that's good for your stem clamps better onto the actual steerer tube and the expander bung, so it's safer.
There's 2 bike mechanics that I have worked with over the years. Nick, who is sitting in front of me, and Billy, who is also the guy that built my howler. And both of you, from as long as I've known you, have always been like, you have to have a 5 mil spacer.
But new aero stems don't always allow for it.
So they're fine.
Cool. Well, hope you enjoyed that round of unpopular opinions.
I kind of enjoyed it. It was kind of similar to overrated, underrated.
Yeah, that was what I was going for, but just move it on a little bit. Got to keep things fresh. Got to keep it moving.
Yeah, but I think it works quite well because you can sit on the fence.
Yes.
A little bit more now.
Yeah, fine. Well, thanks for that feedback. We'll probably play some more of this. So if you have any unpopular cycling opinions or hot takes, send them to wildonespodcast@cademedia.co.uk and we might debate them in a future episode.
I really need to make some jingles, don't I?
I've given up hope, Jimmy. You're not doing it. You're all talk and no action, and I've lost my faith in you.
Okay.
So.
You built him a full music studio.
Oh, tell me about
and he
it.
hasn't done anything.
It's currently
with it.
covered in dust. Once I clear the dust out from the current phase of renovation, I am definitely going to make some jingles.
Well, I will believe it when I hear it.